So I'm a new professor here at Durham University. I'm a new assistant professor in historical archaeology, and I currently have two main projects. One that focuses on slavery and resistance in Guinea-Bissau in West Africa, where I am with a group of colleagues working collaboratively with the community, looking for the origins of an European settlement that is also connected to an African settlement, and trying to understand the origins of inequality in the Atlantic world, basically the world that we have today, we live in today. And another project that I have is about resistance to fascism, which is a very important theme these days. And we are focusing on a region in Croatia that was basically one of the main stages of anti-fascist resistance during the Second World War in the former Yugoslavia. So again, like in Guinea-Bissau, I'm working collaboratively with the community who wants to value their heritage, and has invited archaeologists to work with them as they are planning to, bring some visibility to their local heritage. So one thing that is really matters to me when it comes to historical archaeology is that it's a kind of archaeology that is really focused on the world that we live in today. We might look at very ancient things from antiquity, from the Middle Ages, but in the end what we are doing is basically looking back from where we are standing today. And in order to do that, you can only work if you are building partnerships, and if you are talking to people today, and if you are trying to understand their problems, which are also your problems. When I was a student, when I became an undergrad in archaeology back in Portugal, I was very interested in the roots of inequality, because I am from a working class family. My relatives were working in factories, they were working in the fields, they were affected by forced displacement in many different ways. Some of them were also fighting colonial wars in Africa for reasons that they felt that were unfair and that they didn't quite understand, that didn't have anything to do with their problems. So I wanted to understand what were the material circumstances that enabled this kind of situation. So I thought archaeology was the good way to do it, because a lot of what we do in archaeology has to do with stories that are often untold because they were not written. And historical archaeology often opens the possibility of understanding stories that are not necessarily very old, but they were not written. They are basically print in objects, they are reviewed by artifacts, by sites, and sometimes connections that we will not be able to do otherwise just by looking at books or written sources. Just to give you an idea, maybe even in Britain and around Europe, 2 or 3 generations ago, or sometimes even 1 generation ago, people didn't know how to read and write. So we really need archaeology in collaboration with other disciplines like oral history, anthropology, and history as well, in order to get to those people. Historical archaeology deals with situations, with stories that are so often so close to us that it's very often the case that those are very difficult stories that people do not deal so easily with. So by coming to RBA, you'll be able to engage with those stories in a critical perspective, with ethical commitment, and thinking about how you can relate your activities to social justice. And contemporary struggles for social justice. So basically you're coming here to this BA not just to learn methodological approaches to the past, but we also teach you how to confront difficult histories in a way that is ethical, in a way that is going to be beneficial and positive for the people who are part of these stories. I can give you a couple of examples. So we have staff in the department working with issues of colonialism and slavery, and the legacies of slavery and colonialism are still very much part of today's world, structural racism, for example. And this is something that we have to address in archaeology, and archaeology offers possibilities to study and to deal with these legacies in a way that can contribute to improve our world today. We have other colleagues who are also collaborating with our BA in Archaeology of the Historic World, who work about sites of atrocities, they do exhumations of mass graves, about the First World War or the Second World War, the Spanish Civil War. So we will be able to offer you very different perspectives of what it is to deal with situations, with stories that are so difficult even for people who are, alive around us today. This country is really diverse, and you find people from around the world here and people with all sorts of backgrounds. But the lives of people who live in this country, they are often quite undocumented. It's difficult to understand sometimes people's personal and family histories that are connected to issues such as colonialism, industrialization, all sorts of stories. And by doing a BA in Archaeology of the Historic World, you'll be able to connect narratives that are often historical, that deal with historical sources and official narratives, but connect that to the everyday life and experience of people who are around you and your ancestors and all those who somehow made you who you are today.